It's my great honor to introduce you to our guest today, Allison Haddon, Director of Product Marketing at Glassdoor, Judy Fung, Manager of Employment Brand at VMware Inc., and Price Smith, Social Media Manager for Employment Brand at VMware. But again, members, welcome to the webcast here, How to Message Your Employer Brand in an Authentic Way. And again, I'd like to welcome personally all of our wonderful guests too here. Allison, Judy, and Price, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us, Daniel.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having us, Daniel. Really happy to be here. This is Allison Haddon, Director of Product Marketing at Glassdoor. Really excited to be here with Price Smith and Judy Fung from VMware as we talk about employer branding and kind of the rise in transparency and the changing ways that candidates are researching companies and making decisions. A little bit about our agenda today. We're going to talk about transparency and your employer brand. We are going to talk about how to get your employees on board, some great tactical action items so that you can walk away and return with some to-dos with you and your team, talking about steps to ensuring transparency, how to leverage internal and external resources. We're going to talk about enabling sourcers and recruiters to tell your story. And then, as Dan talked about, hopefully we'll have some time for some questions from you. And as Dan said, remember, feel free to interact on Twitter. If you hear something that sounds great or you want to take a screenshot, you can use the hashtag HCI Webcast and also the hashtag Glassdoor. So running into things right now, I want to talk about kind of what we're learning about today's candidates. When it comes to attracting and retaining top talent, as most of you know who are on the phone, employer branding has really only come up as a word in the last couple years that we've been seeing in human capital management. When we look at some statistics today that help us really frame what's happening with today's candidates, 51% actually have buyer's remorse. These are new employees, essentially, according to a DDI study of about 2,300 new hires that took place last year. 51% of new employees today have buyer's remorse, with 88% looking to leave within 6 months because they said the hiring process failed to paint an accurate picture of the job. As a result, today's candidates are really looking for more than just the employer's perspective. The sort of traditional channels through which today's candidates would look around for information about a job in a company, things like an employer's career site, the job description, or even conversations with recruiters or talent acquisition leaders, those traditional channels have kind of led to some mixed expectations. And as a result, today's candidates are seeking out information from new channels that didn't even exist, 4, 5, 6 years ago. And it's turning out that they're actually putting more trust in some of these new channels. According to Nielsen research, for example, 70% of buyers today trust online reviews and ratings as a source of brand information. So it's not surprising that when we look at today's candidates, that it's really no different. 95% of today's job seekers in a Glassdoor poll of our 22 million members say that reviews from those on the inside are actually really influential when deciding where to work. So basically, a company's reputation today has way more of an impact than you might expect because of these new channels, especially things that are happening online that weren't around 4, 5, 6, and definitely 10 years ago. And this is a bit of a startling statistic, and I want everyone to make sure they're sitting down for this. According to a 2012 study by Corporate Responsibility Magazine and Allegis Group Services, 69% of today's candidates would not take a job with a company that had a bad reputation, brace yourself, even if they were unemployed. 69%, even if they were unemployed. And actually 84% would consider leaving their current job if they were offered another role at a company that had an excellent reputation. And if you're thinking, well, yeah, that company with a great reputation, it's probably just about offering that candidate more money. Well, most candidates in the 75 to 100K salary range would only require a 1 to 10% salary increase to consider that job with an employer that had a better reputation. So, what does this mean for employers? And I promise you, it's going to get better, and we're going to give you some great tips thanks to Judy and Price stepping in as well. So what does this mean for employers? What we know as a result of this, we can go to the next slide, is that a company's employer brand reputation today, more so than ever, directly impacts their ability to attract and retain top talent. In a 2013 survey by ERE of about 5,000 talent acquisition decision makers, there was a 50% cost per hire savings with a strong employer brand. Employer branding is no longer about creating a Facebook page or adding photos to a career site. There is a really dynamic set of strategies that can be used in leveraging both internal and external resources that can help a company build and really promote and amplify their employer brand. And that's going to have a direct impact on their recruiting efforts. It's obviously critical then that employers are promoting their brand where today's job seekers are looking for it. And as I mentioned, the traditional channels of a career site, of a job description, of a conversation with a recruiter or a hiring manager, today's candidates are looking for information outside or in addition to those traditional channels. And one of those channels that we know job seekers are going to today is Glassdoor. So, Glassdoor, our mission is essentially, to help people everywhere find the jobs and companies that they love. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that in a recent study by Software Advice in January, and this was a complete independent study. We only recently found out about it here at Glassdoor. They surveyed about 5,000 job seekers today, and 48% of them said that they use Glassdoor at some point in their search. So as a result, Glassdoor has become really the most trusted and transparent place for today's candidates to search for jobs and research companies. Why is this? Why are today's candidates going to Glassdoor in addition to some of those traditional channels that we just talked about to get information about jobs and companies? Well, on Glassdoor, we've got about 22 million members right now, but what makes us unique is we've got 6 million pieces of content, ratings, reviews, salary reports, interview experiences, photos, awards that are submitted by employees, creating this vast, transparent community through which job seekers can really get a 360-degree view of what it's like to work at a company. As a result, the job seekers that are on Glassdoor, and again, we've got about 22 million members right now, these are the types of candidates who are really actively engaged in their own career. They are doing a ton of research. They're looking at 4 to 7 reviews on a company before they form an opinion about it. These are the ones that employers are telling us, because they do their research on Glassdoor, they're turning out to be really an ideal fit for the job. And as a result, employers, we've started in the last couple years helping connect those employers with the candidates that are actively researching them on Glassdoor through employer branding and also job advertising. So how we do it, essentially, how we connect employers with these quality candidates on Glassdoor who are doing their research and are turning out to be the ideal candidates, we help them through job advertising and employer branding, as I just mentioned. We've got targeted job ads and also an enhanced profile, and really what differentiates us is our applicant quality and the influence that employers have today on candidates' decisions when they promote their brand and really tell their story and showcase their jobs in a forum like Glassdoor. The kind of results that we're delivering for employers, including VMware, which I'm sure Price and Judy are going to talk about, is basically better applicant quality. When we talk about the candidates today that are researching companies on Glassdoor, they're well-informed and they're highly selective when it comes to applying for jobs, which means that they're only applying to the jobs that are an ideal fit. As a result, employers don't have to deal with mountains of unqualified applications, which saves them time, and that results to better applicant quality versus traditional job boards, where you might be getting significantly more unqualified applicants. Since Glassdoor is delivering fewer of those kind of trash resumes that every recruiter hates having to sift through, employers are only paying for the remaining high-quality applicants, not those junk resumes. So lower cost per hire versus other recruitment channels is definitely one of the results we're delivering across the board as well for our clients. And then the influence over candidates' decisions. As I mentioned before, Glassdoor is the place where, almost half of all job seekers today are going at some point in their search to research a company and make decisions. And as a result, it's creating a fantastic opportunity for, employers to promote their brand, to tell their story, basically in the place where candidates are looking for it. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to Judy to talk about, how to get started, in taking this information about today's candidates, where they're looking for information, what's important to them when it comes to evaluating employers, and how kind of transparency plays a part in all of this. So take it away, Judy.
Thanks, Allison.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. As Allison mentioned, I manage the employment brand and recruitment marketing at VMware, and I'm really excited to share with you some of the perspectives on how we go about communicating our story, what it's like to work here, what motivates our people, and what our workplace is like in an authentic way. Before I begin, I want to share a quote with you that many of you may have heard. Tony Hsieh, CEO of Zappos, has popularized this quote, which is, "A great brand is a story that never stops unfolding." So what that means at VMware, we really take that to heart. What that means as we tell our story around our employment brand is that we do see our story as multi-layered and robust and dynamic, and it's something that's always unfolding day to day, week to week. So in the next few slides, you'll see some of that brand story unfold and how we engage our employees to get to the authentic nature of it. But first and foremost, before going to that slide, I do want to convey that our employment brand story starts with our very own people, and that means we strive to highlight their experience and through their lens. And as an HR group overall, we're very employee-centric. We use employee-based research and focus group surveys and real-time crowdsourcing to listen to our employees, to help improve their experience and to also help make our campaigns very relevant. So moving on to the next slide. Moving on to the Architects of What's Next slide. This is our most current and prominent example of our employment brand story. This is a campaign where we started off with employee focus groups. We asked them why they came to VMware and why did they stay to do their best work. And what we found was a common and resounding thread: to make a difference, to be on the leading edge, and to really make a difference in what's next in the IT industry. So what you're seeing here is the employee engagement aspect of the campaign. We launched it internally first. We let them know this is the message, this is the essence of what you told us, architecting what's next. And then we asked them to personalize it by, we gave them What's Next mugs, and we asked them to personalize, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to your team? What does that mean to you being part of a larger whole? And we got a variety of responses, a lot of fun ones and a lot of ones that are very specific to what the particular person did in their group. And here you're seeing across disciplines, whether it be R&D or support or marketing or IT, a lot of different responses about what's next for this person. And what we did was we took the content that was shared internally by our own employees, shared it back with them, and then also asked them for permission to share it externally. So we really wanted to give that lens, that look into our company, and also show the fun nature of our company. So in the next slide, what you're seeing is the imagery of the brand of the campaign around what's next. We wanted to make sure it was consistent and that it was differentiating us and that it was based on research that came from our employees. So you're seeing our Facebook ads, you're seeing our Facebook cover, and other social content posts that were created, as well as the Glassdoor ads on the very bottom there. And you can see there's the consistency, but we also wanted to keep our employees there as reoccurring characters of the story. So that's why we also highlighted them there. The Glassdoor ads in particular did perform very well for us. When we launched the ads within the Glassdoor platform, we found a very high click-through rate, and we saw that people were going to our career site. So that told us that people were resonating with the creative and they're interested in learning more. Moving on to the next slide. Aside from our social channels, aside from our career site, we also want to take the approach of communicating our employment brand story with authenticity to the other things that we do. So here you're looking at a print ad that we did where after we were recognized for being a top workplace, we brought it back to our employees. We thanked our employees. We highlighted one of our very tenured principal engineers at that time, and we really wanted to capture the essence of, that great essence of why they're coming and doing great things at VMware. So not only are we doing it in our social channels and social sharing, but we also want to make sure that the strategy of having our employees at the center is carried over in all that we do. Which brings us to the next slide. So interactive newsletters, newsletters where it's trackable, where we can embed content and repurpose content that we've already created is also another area and a touch point where we, again, have the consistent look and feel and the feel that differentiates us, and we're bringing it back to what the employees are saying. So they're talking about their challenges and projects that they're working on, the rewards that they get. They're also talking about the experience and the different events that are happening. We do that, we take all of those stories and we repurpose it and put them into different types of things like interactive newsletters. Now moving on to the next slide, another campaign that I really, really enjoyed. So this was a year ago, right before Architects of What's Next. We did the Corporate Crush campaign. And how this campaign started is, it really happened around a focus group where we were talking to some of our top engineers. And we asked them, and we always ask this, because we want to stay close to the pulse of this. We asked them, why did you come to VMware? Why do you continue to stay and do your best work? And, a variety of things were mentioned. But one thing that really stood out was one engineer said that the first time he used VMware technology, the first time he opened up the product and loaded it in and saw it work, it was really a moment of technical awe for him. He had respect. It was a gold standard for him, and that's why he wanted to come to VMware, because he had a corporate crush, he admitted. He really fell for VMware technology. So we loved what he said about that, and we wanted to ask other employees, well, how many other employees have a corporate crush on VMware? What does that mean to them to really love the place that you work at? And we asked them, and for employees that responded, we gave them this fun, loving, whimsical bobblehead, which we lovingly dubbed the I Love VMware bobblehead, and employees just loved it. They wanted to have one, and we said, well, you can definitely have one. We just wanted you to participate in this campaign that's going on. And so what you're seeing here is a picture of the word heart, where people shared what they thought, why they loved VMware. And then on the right, you're seeing the pictures of the bobblehead traveling around the world, going to industry events, and appearing in Instagram posts. So this is one of my favorite campaigns because it really just brought out the heart and the essence of our people. Now moving on to the next slide. Jumping back to Architects of What's Next, our current campaign, we have a lot of different touch points. We have a lot of different channels and ways to connect with potential new hires. And what we try to do is make sure that our authentic story is told consistently throughout all of these channels, and that we are, where we can to make it visually appealing and enhancing, and giving that authentic story of what it's like to work here while allowing people to be able to connect with us easily. And that's really what you're seeing here. So I'd like to pass the ball right now to Price Smith, who manages our social campaigns and our social channels, to talk about what authenticity means when she's planning and generating content.
Thanks, Judy. So how is everyone on the call? Have you taken away any relevant strategies for you and your team at work yet? Awesome. So I'd like to quickly pass it over to Daniel so we can all take a quick poll, and then we'll dive into 5 steps that my team proactively takes and that your team can take as well to ensure transparency when connecting with top talent.
Thank you, Bryce. And members, that poll is now open. Today's question, how would you rate yourself when it comes to having a transparent employer brand, with 5 being the most transparent? And we'll give you a couple of seconds here to get your responses in. Hopefully you want to get the chance to let your voice be heard. And Price, I think you can see some of these results as they're coming in. Is this kind of what you expected, or how do you feel about these numbers coming in?
Yeah, it seems like right now people are kind of leaning towards the middle, half and half. I guess some people feeling comfortable that their employer is transparent, and maybe some a little bit unsure. But pretty interesting findings. So yeah, I guess if we want to move along, one of the first and really most crucial steps in helping ensure transparency for all of us and our employer is building out an editorial calendar. So at the beginning of each year, the VMware Employment Brand Team sits down together to pause and reflect on, where we've been, what's next, and how we plan on executing on these plans. From this initial brainstorm, we built out an editorial calendar for the year. So we ended up doing this after we got back from the holidays, our team at VMware. And as Judy mentioned earlier, the story never stops unfolding. Due to this, we're always looking for opportunistic story leads to really infuse and refresh the editorial calendar. So it's always a working document, so just keep that in mind. Some examples of stories and areas we look to amplify here at VMware in our editorial calendar include people and team stories, academic conferences, hiring initiatives across the globe, holiday and cultural events to, bring some of that fun spunk at our office into our stories, and even awards and recognitions. So after we've identified these key focus areas for our editorial calendar, we then go and connect with various directors, managers, and employee brand journalists to help drive and identify key VMware people across the globe to help bring the stories to life in an authentic and compelling way. So here you see on the slide is an example of an employment brand editorial calendar that you and your team could potentially leverage. Here at VMware, we currently house our master editorial calendar in the cloud in an Excel document. This really allows us to, quickly edit it and share it with one another and other teams who are helping us bring our projects to life. So I guess moving on to the next slide, another step to really leverage and think about, or what we've leveraged, are Glassdoor reviews in our First Impressions survey, which is a biweekly internal survey that goes out to all of our new hires at VMware. We use the Glassdoor reviews and the First Impressions survey as checkpoints, to get a pulse on our strengths and weaknesses as an employer. And these findings, in the end, really help inform and shape the editorial calendar that we build out. So in 2012, we actually noted several Glassdoor reviews that were highlighting growth and development as a pain point for us. Instead of, ignoring that, we took these findings back to internal stakeholders and created editorial content to help amplify the fact that our people can leverage a variety of development opportunities to grow both professionally and personally here at VMware. And an example of these stories that we built out was around the VMware Take 3 program. Take 3, also known as T3 internally, is a program intended for our people to drive continued innovation by giving these employees an opportunity to really take a break from their usual work responsibilities for up to 3 months. So this time is spent by, rotating into another team to learn and contribute their expertise, work on an advanced development research project or learning activity, going out in the field with the sales organization, or even participating in an extended service learning giving back experience. So to bring these stories to life, we empowered our own people that have participated in the T3 program to share their takeaways. We shared these findings and takeaways both internally and externally on the VMware Careers social channels in the form of blog posts and YouTube videos. And really our hope in doing this was that both current employees that weren't aware of these opportunities could in the future take advantage of growth opportunities like T3 provides, and that also future employees could as well learn about how they can grow at VMware. And then I guess moving back to the first impressions survey, this survey really allows our new employees the opportunity to shed light on their initial interactions with VMware, the hiring process, what is working, and what we could improve upon. So we proactively, review these results every couple of weeks, get together quarterly with key stakeholders, and we noticed comments around the need. Well, I guess an example, just bringing an example to life, is that we noticed a need for more regular communications with our recruiters and staffing employees. So we took this feedback and shared it with staffing directors, who then relayed this information with their teams. And these efforts and examples with the First Impressions Survey and Glassdoor really, I guess, bring to life, our continuous drive to be transparent and effective when conveying our employer brand. So I guess moving along, being responsive, listen, and answering with a human touch. These are really all important characteristics to both future and current employees. No matter the social channel we're active on from an employment brand perspective here at VMware, I really try to be prompt and transparent with inquiries. One example of this was when we were transitioning from one vendor to another as our main host of VMware jobs at the end of this past year, or 2013. Community members and candidates were experiencing some technical issues when trying to apply to our jobs. And several people even reached out socially inquiring about the issue. We listened. We responded on our social channels, highlighting the fact, that we are aware of the apply issues and any frustrations that it might have caused, showing transparency and a human touch. And we provided a direct link so that the community members that were having issues could successfully apply to all of our jobs while we were trying to mitigate and resolve the issues on our job site. And in the end, people in our community were really appreciative of the fact that we acknowledged the issue in a timely manner. As you can see on this current slide, this is an actual communication we pushed out on LinkedIn while this whole situation was taking place. And really overall, as the social media manager of our employment brand, I've noticed that people sometimes really are surprised when they receive a quick and genuine response in the social space. So acknowledging a communication, whether positive or negative, that's the key one, whether positive or negative, can really go a long way and ultimately help foster that thriving talent community that we're all looking for as employers. So I guess moving on, our internal social network at VMware, it's called VMware Link. It's powered by Socialcast. This platform really allows our people across the globe to easily connect and share information with one another. Our team, the team I'm on, Team Judy and I are on, really leverages VMware Link to identify story leads, highlight people and team stories, and engage in two-way conversations and even, sharing employment brand campaigns with our people. So here you'll see on the slide, I don't know, might be tiny font for you all, but here on this slide you'll notice communications that I pushed out around Engineers Week 2014, which was actually only a couple of weeks ago. It was February 16th through the 22nd. So for Engineers Week, we spotlighted 4 VMware engineers from our office sites around the world and social blog posts that were shared internally and externally. This image shows really the thought share around the topic. It's actually cropped out, but I wish I could have seen it. Another employee that isn't on our direct team ended up chiming in with a direct link to the Engineers Week website and, was saying, check this out. You can learn about other opportunities to get involved because, the Engineers Week website had some great resources for people to get involved in both their local and global communities around, engineering. So ultimately, VMware Link, this internal social platform, has been a great tool as it helps the mission we have here at VMware to connect our people globally with their colleagues and really make them feel a part of that larger whole. So yeah, moving along, external social media channels. Here at VMware and on our team, we use both free and paid tools, some examples being Spreadfast, Radian6, Omniture, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and even Quora, to really listen and track sentiment and conversations around employee life at VMware. Like we've discussed about other areas, these insights also help shape our employment brand strategy. An example of this is one of our 2013 social collaboration projects with our global recruiters. So what we did, we ended up connecting with our staffing employees on the top 10 most frequently asked questions from candidates that they had received while at VMware. From these findings, we then created a social post-episode series that highlighted each question, a VMware staffing employee, their response to the question, and ways for candidates to then socially connect with that particular staffing employee. This project really is just an example of how we strive to continuously listen to our talent community and be authentic by providing a means for that two-way communication. Another example, moving on to the next slide, of how we empower our recruiters and sourcers to make sure they're telling their story and helping amplify our efforts is this Architects of What's Next, 15 Ways to be a Talent Brand Expert infographic, which it was a pretty fun project to work on. So this task sheet was a fun way for our employees, the staffing